Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this little project from our fabulous brand new collection Treasures of the Sea from Tattered lace. You will have seen me making this on air this week when we launched the collection, so we thought we'd do it in a little bit more depth so that you can see the step-by-steps, you can watch it at your own pace, and it's just something a little different. I could just talk you through it very quickly. Basically, we've just used the Mermaid charisma and the lovely undersea extra little embellishments that we've got, but using the Victoriana label die, I've actually made this card and I wanted it to create the effect of almost like a clamshell. So I'll be showing you how to shape the card at the top and how to put the little acetate hinges on so that your card can sit and it doesn't fall off, because we've got these little gold strings which tie in with the theme. So let's move it to one side and we will start the step-by-steps and show you how to make it yourself. So we're going to pop the card over here so we'll still be able to refer to it as need be. So all I've done is I've actually cut out the Victoriana label die from some white cards, scored across the middle just to create my card blank. And then I've taken some of the beautiful plain green card that comes within the kit, and again I've cut exactly the same shape and I've trimmed them in half so that we can actually cover this bottom section and the top section as well. Now you may find once you've cut it in half that you may need to trim off a little bit, and we can do that as we go along if anything doesn't seem to line up quite as well. So first of all, I'm going to take my glue and I'm just going to cover the base of the green card in glue, and we're just going to pop that down flat at the bottom here so it just lines up with the fold there like that. And don't worry, because if you find that you've got a little bit of white showing or you've got too much of the green hanging over, you can trim that. A little tip for you: if you're thinking how on earth can I do that, you can actually just turn it over and just snip down the edge there. We've got a tiny little bit of overhang, so I'm just going to do that with my scissors. And don't worry as well if you've got a little bit of white showing along the fold, because we're going to embellish it, so it's totally fine. Now what I've done now is I've used one of the patterned papers that's in the collection. This is the one with like the tiled floor, and it's an underwater scene with a mermaid on, and you'll see that I'm going to be using the top half as well in a moment. Actually, I've just had a thought. Just before I do that, I want to glue on this top section so that you can actually see how I'm building this up. Now what we need to do with this one is I'm just going to turn this over and just check how much that shows. We've also got another piece here which is slightly smaller, so that is the bit that's going to go on the front because I didn't want quite so much of a gap. So I'm just going to trim a tiny little bit off here, and this is what you'll have to do as you go along just to make sure that you get everything nicely lined up. And you also need to make sure that you can actually shut your card, so don't worry about the white bit here. You will have to have that so that you can open and close your card without it kind of crunching up your green piece there. So we'll just glue this on, and then I will show you what we're going to do with the next step. So what we want to do next, we want to add these inside panels, as I was just going to do a few minutes ago. Now I've got my inside panel here. So again, lining it up with the green, I need to trim a little bit more off there. Because if you recall, we've cut all these, well, we've cut the green and the white card blank out of the outer die, and then we've chosen the inner die just so that it gives us that nice matte layer there. So we're good with that one. We check this one. We're good with this one too. So because we're adding embellishments into the centre, we don't want to actually put weight on the card so the top opens out. So we need to keep that so that it stands up. And this is why I've put the little strings in. If I bring this one in here, you'll see that we've got the strings, and that stops it from actually falling over or collapsing on itself. So this is the next bit we're going to do. To do this, if you look at your panels, you've got this point here and here, and the same here, and all I've done is taken my pokey tool and put a little hole in those sections there. So we'll do just roughly in the centre, one there and then one there, and depending on what kind of cord or twine you're popping through, depends on what size hole you will need to do. You can knot it at the back if you want to, but I wanted to keep it quite flat. So what I've done is I've actually attached it in place with tape. It's quite a thin cord as well, so it works fine. So the first bit to do is the top section. So if we can pop this through the hole, and if you're not good at doing this or you find it frays and don't want to go through, you might want to just put a bit of tape around the edge, or actually get a little needle and thread it through with a needle. And then we'll just secure that with some double-sided tape. So I'm just going to pop that down onto there just so that that holds it. It's not going to be seen, so you don't need to worry about it. And then we'll do our second piece on here. And I was going to do these bits almost like prepared, but I wanted to show you how you do this, because step by steps of me actually doing it makes it much more beneficial to you as maybe even a brand new crafter, and it shows you lots of different ways of putting something like this together. You know, we don't want you to feel like you're on your own and you don't know how you do this kind of thing. So we've got this section now. So what I want to do now is add extra tape. And rather than putting this on with glue, I'm just going to use some finger lift tape just to pop this. Whoops, excuse me there for pulling off the back of my card. But that's not going to be seen anyway, so that's okay. But it's good to just use the tape in this instance, just so that you can see that it can be done quite quickly. So we'll just take off the backing there, and the backing there, and the backing off this one. And then what we will do is we will take the backing off here as well, so that when we put it in place should hold that down nice and firmly. So this one goes on the top section, just like that. You can line it up so you've got an even amount of green around the edge. Make sure you give it a good press down so you know it's going to hold that string. Now the second section is a little bit trickier because we've already got this one stuck down. We needed to do that so that we could figure out how high or low we need this to go in. So what I'm going to do is thread the first piece through like this, and we will pull that through as well, she says, as it starts to fray a little bit. But if we pull that through like that, we can push it, put a bit of pressure on there, grab it with my nails, pull that through. And then we can do the same with the other side. Now this is where it can be a little bit temperamental, because as you put one string in, the other one pops out. And that's why it's good to sometimes have a needle or a pair of nails or tweezers or something like that. So now I'm going to tear a couple of pieces of my tape and just have those to hand. Because what I want to do now is, if I pull my tapes through like that so that the short bit is here and they're tight, I can then, keeping hold of them, put this down gently onto here to just see how much leeway I have. So if we pull this one through and give the card a little bit of a lift like that, so now you can see how far back your card is going to go. Now don't worry if one side pops out, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got it held on one side like that, and then you push your card forward, and you can see that that's roughly about an inch there. Grab that with your finger, keep hold of it, put your tape on the back. I know it's a bit fiddly, but it will work like that. Okay, now you see that acts as like an extra hand for us now, so that when we put in this on here, we know that this is not going to fall out. So again, with that one, we can pull that through. And if you want to adjust it afterwards, then you totally can. And if you want to have it more straight up, or you want to have it leaning back a little further, you can too. This one is going to probably go a little bit further back, but it's still fine. Okay, so let's just make sure that tape's on there. Take off the backing. And I think this is probably one of the trickiest bits of the card, actually. Just getting that tape and that twine in place, just to make sure it stays where we put it. And the worst thing that will happen is it'll fall out, and that's unlikely. And if it does, you're a crafter, you know what you're doing. You can actually just reposition it and it's fine. So if we hold this up in place now, just while we check that we've got our little green edge in place, and there you go, you can see that that's nicely held now, and we've got a nice little scene to build our mermaids on. Now what we need to do as well, we also have a piece that needs to go on the front of the card. So we're going to pop this on now with some glue, and then what I want to do is I want to put the extra piece on top. Now what I've done with the extra piece is I've cut it from the patterned cardstock, the pattern paper should I say, and what we're going to do is we're going to put that on, and then we're going to put an additional kind of shape into it by actually using a ball tool to shape it a little bit. So if you've got a soft mat or a foam mat or a mat that's got like a mouse mat, the back of a mouse mat, you can use that. Take a ball tool. If you've not got a ball tool, sometimes you can do it with like the end of a wooden spoon. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just doing lots and lots of circles on there. It's going to stretch the fibres, and as you see, as I'm doing it, it actually starts to pull in. The bigger the ball tool, the bigger the end you have got, the easier it will be to drag that in and give it some shape. Just like that. So now you see we've got that kind of domed effect, and that just gives it that kind of shell effect. And now we can take some of our double-sided tape, our thick double-sided tape, and we can pop this onto here like that. And then I'm going to do a second layer, just so again it keeps that domed effect going. Okay, and it just makes it nice and deep. If you want to use your pin flare glue gel at this point, then you can do that, and you could leave it overnight, and then you'll find it's nicely domed and it won't move. But if you are a new crafter, you've not got glue gel yet, foam tape is absolutely fine, because we've still got that rounded section there. And then we can pop this on top of here, and it just gives it that nice kind of shell effect like that. So when we hold it up, you can see it's got that little kind of domed panel there. It's quite nice to touch actually. It's like the old padded cards that we used to send to one another back in the 80s. So now what we're going to do, we need to bring in the embellishments. So this is using the Charisma and the dies, and what we're going to do is just build up this little scene here in the background. So I'm using a little panel from the stone arch, and then what we're going to do, we're going to pop our mermaid on. Now with the mermaid that's kind of floating around with her tail up in the air, I've cut her once from the Charisma. So we've got the full mermaid. She is going to just sit up here at the back like this. And you'll see we've also got this other mermaid further back in the background. That's a little bit more faded, but she looks like she's deeper under the sea and further back. So that's a nice little touch because we can still see her hide in there. And then for the next layer, I've actually cut off her little fin at the back, and I've cut off this little bit off her tail. And I've cut out a little bit of her hair, so it looks like her hair is actually behind her shoulders. And just using 2 layers, it gives that dimension straight away. And then we're bringing our next little piece, which is going to be glued on, and this is a little bit of the kind of underwater seaweed. We're going to pop this here like this. And then one of the mermaids, which I cut twice, I actually cut the, and I'll find it, it's on here somewhere, here it is. I actually cut the rock away, or to cut the mermaid away, and I thought, why throw the rock away? Let's pop that in as well. So that will just sit in that little gap there, and it just gives a little bit of kind of cute dimension. It makes it look a bit more realistic if you're looking down on it. So now all we need to do is pop our other mermaids together and then put our extra little bit of Charisma on there. So we have our other 2 mermaids. Now I've already cut some sections out of these, and you'll see this as I put it together. We've got 2 of each of the mermaids. With this one, I've actually cut the rock away, and I've shaped her tail fins a little bit, and then I've also cut panel out from between her hair. So the chest bit I've cut away, and I've actually popped the tail slightly forward, because what we want to do here is we want to bend it, because this then becomes our base. So if I pop that there, if I then show you how I put that together like that, we then have a shaped mermaid, and you can see how she sits at a right angle. And then I've made a couple of little brackets from a strip of acetate. I haven't measured them, I haven't scored them, I've just cut a strip and folded it over and just done it by eye really. You won't see it, but it just means if you do come to fold your card flat, then that will actually allow it to sit flat, and it'll hold her where she's sat. So we just get that little bit of red backing off there, and then we can pop that in place. So I've got a length of tape here and a bit at the bottom, and the bottom bit is what's going to stick to the card. The longer bit is what's going to go at the back of her like that. So that will attach her then to our card, and we're going to pop her at this side here like that. Now what you can do as well, another little tip, if you want to fold her over and check that when you shut your card she's not sticking over the edge here when you shut it, then that's another little tip there. So now what we can do, we stick that bracket in place, and then we can just pop a little bit of glue under her tail, and that will hold her down securely like that. And then we do the same with the second one. Now this one's a little bit more fiddly because she's actually sitting on a little bit of an angle, so we really need to kind of tweak her tail on this one. So we will just take off the backing. Again, I've cut the centre of her out so that we've got some dimension on the chest area, and we're going to set her on top there so it looks like her hair is coming down in front of her, like her outfit that she wears that covers her chest. And then again with this one, if I bring in the original, you can see how we need to tilt her a little bit so she sits flat against the card base. So again, we've got a bracket for her too, and we've got tape on her, foam tape on her tail, so we've still got a little bit of dimension there, and she will sit behind. Now if you want to trim this rock a little bit more flat along the bottom, you can do. And then somewhere on the table here I have another little acetate bracket which we're going to attach her with. And so again we'll take off the red backing here, and this is the red liner tape because this is very strong, and once you've got this in place it usually stays where you put it. So again, we're going to put it at the back of the mermaid, and the sticky base will stick onto the card and hold her where we want her to be. So, and we can tuck her tail around there like that. We can move that a little bit, and we can sit her there. So she sits slightly behind the other mermaid, like that. And if you want to glue her tail down, you can. And then we're going to fold another little piece of the seaweed along the kind of beginning edges of where the seaweed grows from the floor of the sea. We're going to pop this in front here like this, so we've got a little bit of dimension. And then I actually cut 3 tiny little pieces from the top of the stone archway, which was the first thing we put onto the background here. And then I have put the brick, or the stone should I say there, flat. This one is going on with my foam tape, and then our next one will go on with glue as well. And we move this along just a little bit further just to give it a little bit of added kind of dimension there. And then if we turn this round, we can show you exactly what we've got here. And there you go, and you can just have a little play around with that, but it's just something a little different, something that we thought it would be good to show you a video, and then you can craft along with me. Have fun and have a go at making it.